We are with David Docherty from the Chief Executive of the National Centre for Universities and Business out of the UK. Now, David, first question, I wanted to ask you, what is the role of the National Centre?
So the National Centre's job is to create world-class collaboration between UK businesses, big and small, and its university system. And through that world-class collaboration to increase the prosperity and well-being of the UK.
Okay. I was really interested in one of the models that you presented in your presentation. I was looking at new ways in which, a way or a structure in which universities and business can collaborate. I wanted to explore a little bit about that. Where did the model come from, and what do you think the potential for the model is?
Well, one of the things that we're trying to do is to go to Web 2.0 solutions, to collaboration models of brokering services. We're not very good at that in this world. And with my other hat on in the television and new media world, I've spent the past 10, 15 years in media and tech companies trying to put together online platforms. So we're going to try and build an online platform at a national scale so that small companies in particular, but also big corporates, can engage with academics. Both actually not just down IP and inventiveness, but also for quality work experience and to make sure that students have got a chance of increasing their employability skills.
Okay, it's really interesting. In terms of the interaction, how did you see that occurring? Were you talking about an online mechanism? What sort of interaction are we talking about?
Well, people are used to having LinkedIn, and people are used to having Facebook, people are used to having Twitter, and people are used to business networks being online. And I think we need to take learning from each of those to establish a trusted platform. And trust is at the heart of this. You have to build trusted relationships between both parties. But we're used to trusting Twitter, and to a certain extent, and we're used to trusting, in fact, we're used to trusting online banks. If you think about it, that's a relationship between you and a trusted partner. You know, and so the internet is awash with trusted platforms. eBay is another one, where you bid, you have to trust the other person to deliver the good. And it's the same thing, I think, with what we're trying to do here, is trying to build these trusted online platforms. Now, it could take off tomorrow morning and just go like that, because as we know, scalability online is easy, or it could take 5 years, because actually building trust between small companies and universities could just take that length of time. Certainly. So we're going to experiment with it over the next couple of years to make sure that by the time we go to a national platform, we've built the learning necessary to make sure that we don't make a big scale mistake. Quite happy to make lots of small scale mistakes to get the learning to get us to the top level. But it's definitely, I think the ambition and the instinct and the ambition is that a national platform that's heavily marketed and builds on success and success stories and feeds those success stories back into the platform could be a way to get to a world where you've got 100,000 small companies engaging with universities as opposed to what we have now, which is small single thousands.
Okay, I really wanted to pick up on your point in terms of trust, because in our conversations yesterday, some of the discussion panels, we talked a lot about the importance of relationships and trust building. And when we talk about trust, and you were just saying that there's a number of online platforms that we do now trust, but how do we build the trust between people? So we might trust the platform, but how do we actually build that trust between people using an online
well, again, you come
media?
back to the fact is that the terms and conditions of signing up to eBay and then feedback within the community of eBay, you get a 4-star or a 5-star rating depending on whether the good was delivered on time, whether it's high quality, was this person a trusted supplier. Okay. It's not that different. I mean, so you get a feedback loop. So imagine a small company comes onto the platform, signs up to the terms and conditions, and then basically steals the IP or steals the innovation or doesn't recognize the contract. Well, they're not going to come back on again. Suddenly, if an academic comes on and says, yeah, I can help you with this, and then walks away, then clearly you're not going to trust that academic again. So that if the platform's got rules of engagement, collaborative rules in terms of conditions, then the internal feedback loop on the platform itself will build the trust.
Okay. Could you step me through, because I'm really interested to make this, a lot of what we're talking about at this conference is about making things practical. Because we talk at a very high level, maybe a strategic level, but it's really useful for us to then put that into practice. Yeah. Could you give me like an example of your average academic and how that might improve their, assuming that the business will get their value, but how would an academic step me through that process?
So an academic, let's imagine someone's working in semiconductors and they've got something that's an instinct for them, and the university doesn't think it's patentable, and frankly he doesn't quite, or she doesn't know quite what it is. If they go onto this platform and it works, right, they can search on companies who are interested in semiconductors, they can search below that into the level of granularity and detail that this company is interested in. It's an interesting theoretical problem, as well as a practical issue. So for the academic, they get double benefit. They get to engage with somebody who might deliver it into the marketplace, and you need to make sure there's a relatively simple buffer contract between that moment. But also, academics like new things. It's like, so this is a problem that might help the research, might give them some consultancy, and it might end up with a product in the marketplace. Now it seems to me that those three things those three conditions of interesting, market-led, and engagement with clever people on the other side in the company, if I was an academic, I'd buy that ticket.
Okay, and it's interesting because you related the academic to perhaps an early adopter. So can you see that the academics will actually engage in this? Because we can imagine from a business side, if they see value in collaboration, new research and development, etc., that they'll get on board. But in terms of academic, we've seen it's much more complex, and they're a much more complex creature.
Well, I think academics are no more complex, frankly, than business people. It's a different level of set of issues. Now, if you're an academic, what do you want to do? You want to publish. Fundamentally, you want to publish. So anything that helps you publish is a good thing. In the UK, also, the way you get your research funding in future will be related to impact. So have I had an impact on the world around me? So bedded into how you receive public funding will be that impact relationship. So you've got double reasons for coming onto the platform. One is, can you find someone who's in the world developing products and services that you can engage with that might help you write a paper, either a joint paper or just develop your ideas better and further? And secondly, will it contribute to your impact statement going forward? So there's two good reasons for academics to do it. I'm always deeply respectful of the academic tradition. I'm not. I mean, my PhD is on philosophy of religion. I come from a world where, the idea is interesting in and of itself. If, on the other hand, I went back into universities with my digital technology hat on, and was that kind of academic, I'd know that engaging with the real world out there is how I'm going to get better papers.
Okay, it's really interesting because the UK is leading the way, I think, in terms of measuring impact. Actually converting value to society, so on a European context, I mean. And so I can imagine that something like that for an academic, where there's some incentive for them to do something, it's going to drive them to actually want to do it. Yeah. Could you see this model being adopted in other countries whereby, even at this stage, impact, maybe their job performance is solely based upon their teaching and research competence? Could you see this also being adopted in other locations as well?
I don't see why not. I think the problem is that the quality of the debate on impact isn't always very high. It sometimes reduces very quickly to grubby commercialization. As if Western economies are a bad thing, right? But what we're trying to do in the UK is to make it a much more sophisticated model of judging impact. So I'm on one of our funding council's boards for judging impact on the arts and humanities. Okay. Now, in fact, these impact statements are being designed by the academics in the arts and humanities departments. So and people are trying to figure out how to look at impacts for works of art, and these are clever academics figuring it out for themselves. It's not an imposition from government. So the key thing, if you're going to transport this across into other countries, is that government has to kind of get out of the way. It's not a top-down approach to this. It's top-down in the sense of saying, right, we think that impact is important, but you've got to let the academics work it out in conjunction with business and with charities. So it has to be real and measurable, but it has to be authentic to the academic experience as well.
So projecting ourselves, if we can, for maybe 10, 15 years into the future, how do you see the online media affecting the way, or being online essentially, how do you see that the interaction might look for an academic with business?
Well, it's incredibly unpredictable. I've launched 4 or 5 social networks, and none of them survived. I mean, the only one that worked for a while was a heavy metal one. You know,
Heavy metal music
heavy
or
metal
heavy?
music.
Oh.
So it's not a given that this thing will work, because you need the network effect to make it happen. But let's imagine it does happen. I would like to see a world where the 300,000 startups a year in the UK, which we have roughly, know of the existence of this national platform, know that if they want to step up in their company, in their business, then they should be engaging with universities. I'd like to see a world where the 40 or 50,000 academics who are generating the inventiveness feel comfortable that they can get more out of their academic life by engaging on this platform. I'd like to see almost an alumni, you know, that people who've been on it once come back time and time and time again. I'd like to see serial entrepreneurship emerging out of it. And I'd like to see the UK being said to be the #1 country in the world for university business collaboration because we've been able to create this national platform.
Well, the vision sounds fantastic. David Docherty, thank you very much for your time. We're very privileged to have you here, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.